It's Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. The big story today is Pokrovsk is still holding. Syrskyi was just giving an interview explaining some of the background of it. You don't want to miss that. I'm going to get to that, but I'm going to get to that after this. It's just an odd story. It's a bad week for Russian aviation as another military cargo jet crashes in the Ivanovo region. Now, yesterday we were talking about this, the Russian pilots that ejected inside a hangar and are no longer with us. But this crew of the AN-22, and there's only a handful of AN-22s left, is presumed dead. The search for the survivors continues. The aircraft crashed into the reservoir near the village of Ivankovo. The plane last made contact at 11 a.m. A year and a half ago, a military plane or transport plane crashed in the Ivanovo region, killing 15 people, 8 crew members, and 7 passengers. So it's weird what's happening. It's the Ukrainians didn't take out this plane. Sanctions may have. So that's what's going on here. A Russian AN-22 transport reportedly crashed in this region. The plane, believed to belong to the Ministry of Defense, was carrying 7 crew members. There's only a handful of these kinds of planes left. These are AN-22s. They have these turboprops rather than jets. They're old, and they should have been put out to pasture a long time ago, but sanctions are kind of helping do that. Russian responders have reportedly only found fragments of the plane floating in the water, so that doesn't seem like a very good sign. The last AN-22 owned by Russia's defense ministry has crashed, according to this headline. I think there's a couple of them left, but maybe those others are not serviceable. Of course, it was never retired. The relic kept flying. Today, an AN-22 military transport aircraft performing a scheduled post-repair test flight crashed. And so again, it wasn't the Ukrainians, but like they had a stamp during Soviet times about the AN-22, what a marvel it was. Okay. Ukrainian Special Forces released footage yesterday of yesterday's FP-2 drone strikes on Russian military targets in occupied Ukraine. The Donetsk drone warehouse of the 9th Motorized Rifle Brigade was hit, and that was in Luhansk region. There was also a fuel 600,000 cubic meter of fuel was destroyed in a precision strike in the Yag fuel depot. Okay, so there are a couple hits yesterday. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't like a massive drone swarm attack or anything like that. Ukrainian long-range drone struck the city of Chebarsky overnight. Footage shows the moment of impact, but the full extent of damage is still being clarified. All right, what were the Russians doing to the Ukrainians night overnight? So there were 110 UAVs that were flying. Ukrainian air defense downed or jammed 84 drones across the north and south and east. At least 24 drones hit 9 locations. So that's what Russia was doing to Ukraine overnight. Let's look at the battlefield. 930 off the battlefield, 2 tanks, 27 artillery systems, 1 multiple launch rocket system, and 61 vehicles and fuel tanks. These numbers are all like relatively low. Artillery systems may be about the same, but all the rest of the numbers are low, including the casualties number. Okay, so let's look at this. Engagements and casualties remain below the 7-day average. Overnight attacks, triple digits. All drones, decent interception rate, 9 locations hit. And of a cross direction, and that's what we want to pay closest attention to. For cross direction, Russians conducted 36 assaults. Okay. That's also low, and that gels with this, and that gels with that, so we're getting good facts. By the way, one of the best comments that I've seen in this whole, all my comments, in fact, this person deserves a shout out right here. The person is A.C. Magoo, G-O-U-M-C-G-O-U-G-H, A.C. Magoo, who had this comment. The best evidence for the stability of the battle line is that Prof pronounces the names without slightest hesitation. You know, there's something to that. It's like, If it's new to me and I'm stumbling over it, maybe there's some movement. But if it's all familiar, yeah. So Pokrovsk direction. Let's look at Pokrovsk again. Ukraine continues to emphasize attrition warfare and efforts to disrupt Russian supply lines through artillery and drones. Urban combat continues despite Russian battlefield air interdiction campaigns using drones and glide bombs to degrade Ukrainian logistics, but these have not yet enabled Russian control of the city. No, Russia does not control the city. This is Chuck Farrer, by the way, and I'm going to come back to Chuck Farrer in a little bit and talk about what we talked about with him just 2 days ago with Greg Terry. Ukrainian 7th Army Corps has confirmed a tactical withdrawal from certain areas. That's Lysivka and Syrskyi Yar. South Yar means like a ravine or something, by the way. You learn things along the way. Southeast of Pokrovsk, relocating forces to more fortified positions. This maneuver was conducted to safeguard personnel, improve logistics, and streamline the front line. Meanwhile, the situation around Mirnograd remains intense. Russian forces have dropped 21 aerial bombs on the city over the past week. Now, this is the big headline, the interview with Syrskyi. Syrskyi keeps saying, look, we're okay. Like, I mean, you see the map and you freak out. You go, whoa, the map, this looks very bad. Syrskyi says with this, we are observing a paradigm shift in the war. At the beginning, it was fought traditionally. Offenses by tanks, large masses of infantry. Now everything has changed with the rise of drones. That's what I've been telling you. War and command decisions cannot be imagined without the drone factor. He goes on, unfortunately, the weather plays into the occupiers' hands. Russia's lost more than 13,000 of its soldiers, killed or wounded during this operation. We're conducting another operation on the other flank where we are liberated more than 50 square kilometers. That's what I was talking about the other day. Like, they're actually pushing back in a significant way. Some German media posted information that the Russian army had taken Pokrovsk. Well, in their defense, Putin said that, Gerasimov said that, and they said it multiple times. I can confirm, says Syrskyi, I can confirm with full certainty this is not true. We hold the northern part of the city, and the Russian army continues losing its soldiers there. We hold the city. That's the headline. Syrskyi saying, we hold the city. Unfortunately, we also lose many, and for me, it's a great pain, but Russia loses many times more. Our heroes defend our land, and the Russian soldiers are intruders who came to seize it. They kill and destroy our economy, peaceful cities, towns, and settlements. 60% of all firepower now comes from drones. Earlier, artillery played the main role with up to 80%. But now it's pushed back to 40%. So that's interesting because the king of battle is supposed to be artillery and the queen of battle infantry. So I'm not exactly sure if drones displaced or if drones is the ace or what exactly, how to wrap our minds around this now. Now it's pushed back to 40%. Drones evolve constantly with AI used for target guidance, automatic detection, and destruction. AI is becoming more of a thing with drones. Ukrainian drones now strike targets more than 1,500 kilometers inside Russia. Obviously, he's not talking about Pokrovsk here. Ukraine targets Russian oil and gas facilities, military sites, and produce drones, ammunition, and explosive components. These strikes limit Russia's ability to fund and supply its war effort. And that's the end of his interview. But he seems pretty clear here when he's saying we hold the city. Again, this is the headline. We hold the city. All right. So let's keep moving. Kupiansk direction. That's another one that Gerasimov was talking about the other day. The Russians made 4 attempts to attack toward the Kharkiv region, Zaporizhia region, and Huliopol direction. 14 combat engagements. That was high for that region. Okay. I talked about Gerasimov the other day, and this was in news that came out from Chuck Farrer. I was talking about, he said, look, it looks like, I'll play myself saying this so that you can see what I said, but it looks like Gerasimov's been sacked, he's off. So, okay. Chief of Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, First Deputy Minister of Defense, Army General Valery Gerasimov inspected the units and formations of the Central Military District in Dnipropetrovsk region. Okay, so that seems improbable, but let's watch this and then I'll show you why it's improbable. So this is Gerasimov getting off his helicopter, being ushered in. He's going into some underground fortification somewhere. And then he's saying, "Good afternoon, comrade officers. The troops of the United Group continue the offensive in almost all directions." During the report to the commander-in-chief on December 1st about the liberation, the commander-in-chief of the Russian army paid attention and set a task to destroy the enemy units in the areas of, and he goes on and starts listing things. Okay, so he's underground, but where is he? Okay, so let's look at this. This is the border of Donetsk, and this is the border of Dnipropetrovsk. And it wraps around here and around here, because this here is the border within Zaporizhia. So this little area here is what the Russians have in the Dnipropetrovsk, and that's where I guess he's claiming to be. It just seems improbable that he's going to be there. When you can't really see where he is, he's just in some underground bunker somewhere. So, okay, I think he's likely somewhere out here or here. I think it's somewhere. It's probably not there, but nonetheless, the point of that was that he's there. Now, this is what Greg and I were talking about the other day. Putin and top military brass, including chief. And I'm reading Chuck Farrar's report about an hour before. That dropped about an hour before what I'm reading. Chief of the General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, proclaimed the city's full liberation earlier this month, December 1 through 2nd, and they did that before that as well. Okay, this next line. Gerasimov has been relieved of command and has been accused by state-run media of corruption. He has not been publicly seen since. Okay, now, I haven't been able to verify that. Now, notice I have said I haven't been able to verify that, and I put this into the video. Just one source, not verified. Now, I say that because people were like, well, what happened to Gerasimov? You didn't follow up. I've been watching. I've been paying attention, looking for any evidence that this was true or not true. This could be, and everything that I've looked at regular news, and I looked at like AI. He hasn't been publicly relieved of command, if that is the case, but he is arguing that this has happened. Whether it's just squirreled away or it's not public or whatever, I just don't know yet. So take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt, and looks like that you needed that grain of salt. Okay, so I'm correcting the record. All right, let's keep moving. And after a drone strike hit high-rise in Grozny, Kadyrov called on Ukraine's forces to name a place for a face-to-face meeting. Well, they're in Ukraine, so that's probably the place to go. Fighters of the Chechen Republic fighting for Ukraine under Abdul Kakim replied, "You want a location? Here we are. Come and look us in the eyes. We're ready." Well, again, the Ukrainians are fighting in Ukraine, so, doing your video in Chechnya is probably not going to help you be able to go fight them and look them in the eyes. Kremlin officials continue to demonstrate Russia's unwillingness to compromise to end Russia's war in Ukraine. This, according to the ISW, Putin is trying to portray the Russian economy as able to support a protracted war in Ukraine, likely to buttress the ongoing Russian cognitive warfare effort to falsely claiming that Russian victory is inevitable. That's why they keep saying, we've taken Pokrovsk, we've taken Konstantinivka, so on and so forth. Russia is reportedly planning to foment protests in Ukraine, likely to support the long-standing Kremlin narrative that the Ukrainian government is illegitimate. Okay, and Trump just today, I just saw this, I'll be talking about it in my three big stories, was talking about how Ukraine needs to hold elections. And I mean, it's going right into the Russian narrative. More of the Russian narrative. Russian propagandist Simon Yon presented Putin with a vase that has an inscription marking 325 years of reunification with Ukraine and Russia. And I started reading 325 years of Ukraine with Russia, she says. And so I thought I just had to go buy this. And I couldn't resist buying it and giving it to you from us, the TV channel. Thank you very much. Really, like, it was just sitting there. Okay, well, at any rate, it could have been just sitting there, or it could have been just created for that purpose, for these propaganda efforts. Okay, Putin isn't planning to end the war. He has signed a decree calling up reservists for 2026 training. Russia's mobilization reserve includes volunteers on a contract of about 100,000 people. as of 2021. So he just signed a decree to mobilize, and we'll see what comes of that. This is just some images of our footage of wall near St. Michael's Monastery in Kyiv. Here are the faces of heroes who gave their lives. Here are ordinary people who did not want war. They wanted to live, but Russia came to kill us. They stood up to defend their country. This is the price Ukraine is paying. Ukraine deserves peace, and that's the wall. Anton Gerashenko has posted this. It's pretty moving to see this. Okay, and then finally, I thought, this is an interesting metaphor. There's this dog that is trapped in this FPV fiber optic cable, and there's something just. Ukrainians just tend to be kind to animals, all types of animals, and he's trying to free the dog, but a dog wants to bite him. The dog feels trapped apparently, and he's going to free him. But I'll just click through this and show you little bits of it as we move through. He eventually starts cutting this stuff away, and the dog will be able to finally get free. And let's go back to here, and the dog's happily running off after he finally is freed by FPV drone cables. Yeah, there we are. But there's something about the character of Ukrainians that's just really interesting with that. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.